Hi, I'm Liz Naftali, and welcome to the Capital Coffee Connection podcast. And today I am very excited because we have a beautiful, amazing, wonderful Congresswoman, Susie Lee, from the great state of Nevada. And I met her many years ago, but then I got to actually learn about her preparing for this podcast. And I was thinking about her because the other morning I took a bike ride, and I take a lot of bike rides down the Hudson River, which is beautiful because you have New York on one side, New Jersey on the other side, and then the water. And it's just beautiful. But Susie Lee bikes in a very beautiful place called Nevada, and I'm going to ask her a little bit about that. And I also heard or read that she also bikes in DC to her office. I think that's a really cool thing. So that is my way of introducing Congresswoman Susie Lee, and you are from Nevada, 3rd District.
I am Las Vegas. It's a suburban district, a little bit of rural, but pretty much everything west of the I-15 in Las Vegas.
Tell me just a little bit about your district and people who live in Las Vegas, Nevada. Who are they, and what kind of people do you get to represent?
First of all, thanks for having me, Liz. And yeah, my district. So if you know Las Vegas, you have the Strip. And then you sort of have everyone who works on the Strip or works around the Strip. And that's basically my district. It's everything west of the I-15. Listen, my district is incredibly diverse, which is exactly, it represents what Nevada is all about. Politically, it is pretty evenly split, Democrat, Republican, Independent, almost a third. Actually, most people identify as non-party, but then when they're asked questions about where they stand, it pretty much evens out a third. It runs the gamut. Racially, it is diverse. I have one of the largest AA NHPI communities in the entire country. My district includes Chinatown, the old Chinatown, and now we have a new Chinatown that's out in the Southwest. But I also have almost an equal amount of Latino voters and about 10% Black voters, and then the remainder, of course, being white. And so it's just a diverse in terms of racial identity as well. And I'm just going to say runs the gamut from service workers in the casinos to many people who are employed at Creech and Nellis Air Force Base to, anyone supporting Switch, it's the big data centers in my district. UFC, the fighting organization, that's located in my district. So it just pretty much runs the gamut from service workers to professionals. And I have several hospitals in my district as well. So it's it just represents really a broad swath of the American public.
Yeah, which is beautiful. And it's amazing. And talk a little bit about where you live, because you do bike, you're a mountain biker.
I'm a mountain biker and a road biker. So I live really almost right on the edge of Red Rock National Conservation Area. If you ever come to Las Vegas, make sure you take some time to get off the Strip and come enjoy. One, it has world-class rock climbing, incredible hiking trails, but I spend a lot of time biking. In fact, I biked this morning before this, and
good.
I'd love to go out. And I do a lot of mountain biking out in Blue Diamond, which is adjacent to Red Rock National Recreation Area. So just our outdoor activities and our public lands in Nevada, everyone thinks of Nevada as the Strip, and no one would ever think in their mind that the desert is beautiful, but when you get to know the desert and really understand the beauty of it, this is an incredibly beautiful place to live and to go out and recreate. And we have so many opportunities here from, Red Rock to Sloan Canyon. And of course, Lake Mead is one of the most highly visited recreation areas in the country. So,
yeah, it's beautiful. And, normally if we weren't rushed and we weren't across the country from each other, we'd be having coffee and we would be sitting together. But because we are virtual, I just want to say thank you for making time. And, on this podcast, what I just want to try to delve into is a little bit more about your heart, your humanity, because what I try to stay away from is the politics and policy. Because what I learned early on is that no matter how someone votes, what we need to do is learn who they are. because we can disagree on voting, but I don't think we should disagree on that we have so much more in common than what does separate us. And I'm hoping through this podcast, and we've done many and we will continue, is to just work and to meet with diverse leaders. So thank you for taking time. And what I'd love to do is to start with where you come from, because I know a lot of people come in and out of Nevada. It's a state that has more people that, like, in 1 year you could do a population study and then you could do it again in 4 to 6 years, and it's very different. Mm-hmm. You've been in Nevada for many years, but you're originally from Ohio.
That's right. I moved here. I've been here for over 30 years, believe it or not. Yeah, I grew up in Canton, Ohio, in a small steel town. My father actually worked at the steel plant, Timken Roller Bearing. I'm one of 8 kids. I have 6 sisters and 1 brother. I always joke we had 1 shower, so I take the world's fastest showers. But yeah, it was my father worked at the steel company. My mom stayed at home and took care of 8 kids. We made ends meet, but we certainly didn't have any extra money lying around. And so we all had to pitch in and help out. I had a paper route when I was 8 years old, worked from then on delivering papers, and then went on to lifeguard. And then when I went to college, I went to Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. And while I was there, I worked 3 and 4 jobs to put myself through school. So it was definitely, a middle class lifestyle, but I would not say we were, swimming in money. Let's put it that way. And unfortunately, my father lost his job when he was 56 years old. I was a sophomore at Carnegie Mellon University, and this was during like the Rust Belt era in the Midwest. And yeah, and it was really a struggle for our family. And he really never achieved meaningful full-time employment after that. He was actually my age when he lost his job. And it really had an incredibly negative impact on our family and on him and on his mental health until he finally, he passed away about 10 years ago. But, that's so much the story about the Midwest, and definitely a story that sort of shapes how we deal with politics. But for me, it really drives a lot of how I approach policy, and certainly, informed why I decided to run for office. My parents could not afford health insurance because they had pre-existing conditions. And to think that, that bill, the Affordable Care Act, it was basically Republicans had wanted to repeal it, was a really big motivator for me, because had that bill been in place when my mom suffered a heart attack 1 month before she qualified for Medicare, and their house, the hospital wanted to take their house. And so many Americans have that story. And it was one that motivated me to run for office.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to go back. In school, one of the questions I've asked a lot of leaders, obviously your family circumstances motivated you, but did you have a teacher or teachers in elementary school, high school, college that were just mentors that believed in you? Because I think that one piece about all of us is that we can look back and say, this teacher believed in me, saw me.
Absolutely. Listen, I had so many, at every stage in my life, I could think of important mentors that I had. In high school, I had a speech teacher. His name was Mr. Rubenstein. He cajoled me, trying to get me to join speech, and I kept blowing him off. And finally, I agreed to do it, and really had an impact on what I do to this day. I was a swimmer. My mom, this sort of, we joke that my mom made all of us swim because she wanted us to take a shower at the swimming pool, not at our house. But Betty Spector, I spent a lot of time at the Canton Jewish Center. I was a synchronized swimmer, believe it or not, as well as a competitive swimmer. And she was my coach and ended up employing me as a lifeguard, and really became almost a second mother to me. And then when I was in college, I had one of my jobs was working as an aerobics instructor. So I used to run down to the Pittsburgh Athletic Club, and one of my students employed me over the summer to take care of his 2 children. And he became a mentor to me as well. So it was like at key stages in my life. And then when I moved to Las Vegas, Mayor Jan Jones, who is the first female mayor in Las Vegas, I ended up working for her and opened the city's first comprehensive homeless drop-in center. So, I can always look at key points in my life and always identify these important mentors who really, without their help, I don't know what I would have done. I mean, my Betty and Bob Casey gave me jobs when I needed them, but more importantly, they sort of surrounded me with support that I need, whether it was, helping me buy gas for my car or helping me buy books in college and things like that. So I always say, and honestly, it sort of informs how I approach my professional development. I always say that in life, we're always going up and down the ladder. Sometimes we're at the bottom reaching up. And we always remember those people who reach down to help us up the rungs. But on the other side, that when you're at the top, I believe it's our duty to look back and make sure we're helping those other ones, other people in our orbit who might be struggling and need that help.
Yeah, it is really the most beautiful thing is to get help and then to be able to give help.
That's right. Absolutely.
And how do you manage to, you have 2 kids, and I know that you're traveling a lot and you're between DC and Vegas. How do you balance being, because I always feel like moms have it as an interesting balance. You can't have one or the other that's perfect, but you just try to make it all work.
Fortunately for me, my kids now are older. My daughter's 25 and she's actually working for a think tank in Washington, D.C. So we're very excited about that. And my son's in college now, but my son was in 8th grade right when I first got sworn in. And it was a juggling act, making sure that he was getting picked up from school and to his sports practice and who was feeding him and how was he getting home from practice and was he getting his homework done? I really have a lot of admiration for many members of the House who have younger kids. It is definitely a struggle. And certainly for those of us who represent a city on the West Coast, because not only do you have your job in DC and your job here, but then you're traveling 5 hours each way, almost three out of 4 weeks. And so, and that you're dealing with the time zone difference as well. But I will say that was the struggle, but I also look at it it opened up a world of enlightenment and opportunity and education to issues that my children probably would never have been exposed to had I, continued as a nonprofit director. I mean, it just really, for as much as it puts stress on the family, it's also an opportunity for them to learn about what is happening in this world and get engaged. And both of them have worked on my campaigns. And, it's definitely been a added, just a plus for our family for sure, but definitely a struggle for moms.
And I'm sure your daughter likes that you're busy, but you're in DC, so you can grab a meal and just check in, which is nice.
That's right. She, can run over and I'll take her grocery shopping when I'm in town, or, she'll come over, we get to meet up. But, she said, how kids are. She's like, well, I might be too busy. And I'm like, yes, and I'm not.
You get it.
Yeah. But no, it's exciting to have her there.
So a question I ask everybody, and I think it's a great one, is like, what's the best advice you've ever received? What's the worst advice? And what is the advice you give people? Because you do mentor as well. So either answer them all or whichever ones you want. But I think it's an interesting piece that people can understand, like takeaways from this conversation.
Well, yeah, I'll start with the worst advice. And it really sort of informs how I behave today. I was working in a job here in Las Vegas. Yeah, both of my children are conceived via IVF. And so at the time I was running this organization, there was a fellow who worked under me who was older than me and had been a retired high school principal. And he really didn't like the idea that he was working for a 28-year-old woman. And I had said to my boss that I was thinking about having children. And the advice I got was sort of to step aside and let this guy take over as the director. And so I could, take care of having children. Let's just say I just said, have a good life.
Yeah.
Where that's not going to work for me. And I left the organization, but don't let anyone make a decision for how you're going to handle your life. And, at that point, I should have just stood up and said, well, thank you for the offer, but I'm going to continue in this position until I'm lucky enough to have a child. I mean,
Yeah.
crazy enough, it took me several years from then to have a child. So that was sort of a negative thing, but then you look back and it really drives me to make sure that when I advise young women, it's like, do what's right for you on your own time. And that's why, right now in this election and in our national conversation, women's choice and access to abortion is so incredibly important because it should be your decision, not anyone else's. The best advice I ever got, believe it or not, comes from my mom. Like I said, I was a synchronized swimmer growing up, and my family didn't have that much money, and it's a sport that you get judged. And so, it's about appearance. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but they wear the costume and the hair and, all that stuff. Well, all of it costs a lot of money. And so we didn't have that type of money. I had to like sew sequins on my own bathing suits and things like that. And so it was very a subjective sport. And up until I was like 13, I could never break into the top 3, like in scoring. And my mom just said to me, you have to be so good that no one can take it away from you. You have to be that good. And so that summer, I practiced every day. I went to school 4 hours a day. I stayed after practice. I'm a competitive swimmer because you need that to be a good synchronized swimmer. You have to have that strength. So I did that. I just worked my tail off that summer. And the next year at the competitions, I got first place and we never looked back from then on. And it was really, and that sort of informed me. You just got to work so hard that no one can take it away from you. And, I still to this day, it informs everything I do. And especially in this line of work, when you're running for office every 2 years, never take anything for granted, never leave anything on the field. The advice I give to people too is I always say, this is the advice I say to my kids. If you don't ask, the answer's no. If you don't apply, you have a 0% chance of getting in.
Right.
If you don't try, we know where you're going to get. And so at least give it a try. You might have a 2% chance of getting it, but it's more than 0. And so, I always, how when you have young kids and you're like, why don't you go out? No, I don't want to. And it's like, all they're going to say is no. You got a 50-50 chance.
I figure let them say no so you can keep moving forward and use it. You can either,
right.
They say no, then you have an answer. But if you don't ask, you don't hit the no is a given. But
right.
If they say no, it's also a good place to start negotiating.
That's right. That's right.
Because a lot of people, they say no right away. And then you're like, talk to them and like they soften it.
Right. That's right. Don't take no for an answer. You can say not. I always say it's not no, it's not now or not this way.
Yeah.
And so just figure out another way to get to yes. And then the other piece of advice I give to young people who I work with, who I, advise when I'm speaking in groups is, when you're doing policy work and you're committed to whether you want to take on homelessness or take on education problems or, food, school nutrition, whatever it is, get close to the people you're trying to help and make sure that you understand what works for them, because it's easy to sit behind a desk and say, this is how things should go. But until you're on the ground running those programs, getting the food or whatever it is, getting a roof over someone's head or making sure that they're staying in housing or, making sure that you're, getting food to the right people. What are the barriers that are preventing you from doing it more efficiently and more effectively? and you have that better knowledge, and you have more of a compassion for the people you're trying to help as well.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And I think it's important. Thank you for sharing that one. Now we're going to do rapid questions. So they're just going to be quick questions. You can answer with a word or a phrase, whatever you want, but there's just nothing in it other than purely for people to get a little idea of who you are.
Okay.
First one is, what is your favorite scent or smell?
Ooh, scent or smell. Gosh, I am very I am just very sensitive to smell. So I am right now I am enjoying I have this so crazy this dish soap from Hudson Grace that has like this like jasmine-y orange smell that I'm loving.
Favorite sound?
Favorite sound. I really love a sound bowl in yoga. I mean, if you're, do a yoga class and you end with that vibration, oh my gosh, it's just so incredibly relaxing. I mean, it's like it just puts me in a zone. I love it.
Yeah. Favorite color?
Oh, I love green. I'm a big green fan.
Favorite food? One meal, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. One meal. If I could eat pizza every day, every meal, I would. I love pizza so much.
And if you could have an ice cream with it, what would your favorite flavor of ice cream be?
Ooh, salted caramel. That's easy.
And who is your biggest cheerleader?
It's got to be my kids, my daughter and my son. They're, I mean, again, like this job takes a toll on your family because your vacations are limited. We always struggle in the summer to, first of all, we get August off, but my kids were going back to school in early August. So you literally had like 1 week that you could potentially go on vacation. And if boats change, if things change, it just makes, family planning a little more difficult, not being there for different events and things like that. But, I don't think, like I said, I think that they understand that significance of my role as a congresswoman and what it's done to open up their eyes to the world and is things that they would never have dreamed of even knowing about. And so but yeah, they're very understanding and always there for me.
Favorite household chore?
Oh my God, none. No.
Because you have to do them, so you don't have a favorite. Okay, if you could travel anywhere in the world, where would that be?
Oh my gosh, I have so many bucket list items right now where I want to go. Like what's in the back of my mind, I want to go see the Northern Lights in Finland and cross country ski and sleep in one of those igloos that are all glass. So that's sort of like top of my list right now. But I have so many destinations I want to do. I want to go to the Dolomites. I want to explore the Canadian Rockies. I went up to Banff this summer and just got a little taste of it. The Wind Rivers in Wyoming. There's just so many great places that I want to get out to explore. The Galapagos. I mean,
You're going to have to figure this out. I mean,
I know. I'm like,
well,
I'm feeling my mortality so much. I'm like, have so many places I got to go. I got to start knocking these off my bucket list.
I hear you. I hear you. Okay, so now we're at the last question, but it's also multiple parts, which is, what does joy mean to you? What brings you joy? And if you have joy, how do you share that joy?
Oh my gosh. Joy, what does it mean to me? I mean, joy to me is a state of one, it's like a state of peacefulness, like being comfortable where you are and what you're doing and who you're with. And so it's just really taking the time to understand what it is that you like and enjoy, and getting to a point where you get rid of things that take away from that. And I always say that we have limited energy in our life and our space. And there are things that add and fill you up. and there are things that take away from you. And, move away from those things that take away your energy and fill up with those things that provide you with energy. What gives me a lot of joy is obviously I love helping people. I love being around people and learning people. I'm an extrovert. So the more my friends always joke, I'm like, hey, do you want to come over for dinner? And they're like, how many people? Like, cause I'm like, if I'm going to invite 4, I might as invite 12, and so I love to cook and I love to share, and I like to take people on hikes and mountain bikes, and, the things that fill me up and give me energy, I like to share them with people, because I think that, especially I'm a big outdoors person, as you can tell, to me that's what fills me up. And so taking people out and sharing it and exploring with them really, and it just gives me joy. It gives me more joy when I can share with other people.
Well, first, thank you. I think about you as, yes, you have a lot of energy, but I sat here and I just smiled for half an hour, because listening to you is joyful. And thinking about like your story about your mom telling you to work hard for your synchronized swimming and that it paid off. And I think that people that are watching, I hope that they see the diversity of where people come from, but that they come from this place of wanting to help. We may have different opinions on how you can help, but, leaders should want to help. That is their goals, to help the people. But I also think that, you also understand and you learn as a young person, you got to put in this time, and it's hard work. And so, and it can be joyful, but you got to put in the work. And
yep.
I just think that, for me, getting to know more about you, and I look forward to others getting to learn more about you, because you are joyful. You've got a lot of energy, but you also care. And those are just really the most amazing qualities for people that are in public service. And that's why people should be in public service. So
absolutely.
I hope that we meet again soon, but I hope it's in person and that we can actually have a cup of coffee together.
Sounds great, Liz. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for doing that.
Hi, it's Liz. Please join me every Tuesday for coffee to talk about heart and humanity with our elected leaders. Remember to hit subscribe to get an alert when a new episode is live and for exclusive content. Ciao.